The moment Natalie Clark stepped out of her rental car and onto the gravel driveway of her childhood home in Bozeman, Montana, she felt the years fold in on themselves like a trap. The faded shutters were still crooked. The porch swing still squeaked in the wind. And somewhere behind the front door, her mother was likely setting the table for dinner, with 2 extra places for her brother Logan and his wife. The same family that hadn't asked about her in 5 years. The same family that had once told her, "The military is for people who don't have options." Natalie reached into the back seat and carefully unzipped the garment bag that held her U.S. Army dress uniform. She ran her fingers over the Silver Eagle insignia on the shoulder. Colonel. At 28, one of the youngest in modern military history. They didn't know. Not yet. She slid the bag under the seat, locked the doors, and walked up the porch steps like she wasn't walking into enemy territory. "Nat, is that you?" Her mother's voice floated from the kitchen. No hug, no rush to the door, just the same old half-interested, half-condescending tone. Natalie stepped inside. The living room hadn't changed since high school. Same plaid couch, same dusty picture frames, and the same framed promotion certificate for Logan's first corporate title hung prominently above the mantel. "Hi, Mom," Natalie called. Her voice came out steady, but her stomach coiled. Carolyn Clark appeared, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She looked at her daughter with a pleasant indifference, like someone inspecting a mildly interesting thrift store find. "You look thinner. Still in the military?" "Yes," Natalie replied. Her mother gave a tight smile. "Well, Logan's flying in later tonight. He just got promoted again. Senior Innovation Lead at Sentinel Tech. You'll see him at dinner." Natalie nodded, heading upstairs before she said something she'd regret. Her childhood bedroom was a time capsule. Pom-poms from cheerleading, college brochures, debate medals. Not a single photo from her military commissioning. Not one article about her cybersecurity team saving half the U.S. supply chain during a cyber attack last year. Her father had always said, "Success is measured by who invites you to the boardroom, not who salutes you on a runway." They had erased her, every piece of her. That evening, Natalie sat at the dinner table while the conversation revolved, predictably, around Logan. "I mean," Carolyn gushed, "when Vanessa Myers herself handpicked him for the new defense contract team, we were just so proud." "The innovation proposal's his," added Logan's wife Bree, beaming. Natalie looked up. "Defense contract?" "Yeah," Logan said, grinning smugly. "Big one. Military cybersecurity. $1.2 billion. I'll be pitching the new encryption architecture to the board next week." Natalie blinked. "Encryption?" "Mm-hmm. It's based on a system I've improved. From some government framework, I think. But I made it more market-ready." "Government framework?" She knew exactly what he was referring to. And it wasn't his work, it was hers. Specifically, a piece of adaptive encryption she had co-developed under classified systems. Someone at Sentinel Tech must have pulled a version from an earlier collaboration. It had military fingerprints all over it, and now Logan was slapping his name on it. "You'll be there, Dad?" Logan asked Russell Clark, who nodded proudly. "Oh yes, big moment. We'll have reps from the Pentagon watching. Some colonel from D.C., I think." Vanessa's excited. Natalie took a slow sip of water. She knew exactly who the colonel was. Later that night, Natalie lay awake in her old bed, staring at the faint glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. They hadn't moved since she was 15. Like this house, like this family, stuck in time. Her phone buzzed. "Colonel Clark, this is Project Aegis Control. Confirmation? You'll be on site for oversight briefing tomorrow, Aero 800 hours. Sentinel Tech HQ." She typed back, "Confirmed. Full uniform. Pentagon Liaison Authority active." Natalie rolled over, unzipped the garment bag again, and placed the Silver Eagle insignia on the desk. The medals and ribbons sparkled faintly in the lamplight. Down the hall, she heard her mother whispering, "Logan's going to shine tomorrow, Russell. I just know it. Vanessa will see what kind of leader he is." Russell's reply was muffled but firm. "As long as no military bureaucrat gets in the way." Natalie smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was calculated. Let them talk. The next morning, Natalie stood in the mirror, fastening each button of her uniform with practiced precision. Her braid was regulation tight, her eyes calm. This was not revenge, this was duty. But if the truth stung her family a little, so be it. By the time she reached Sentinel Tech headquarters, the parking lot was filling with executives and analysts in sharp suits. A security officer approached as she stepped from her car. "Identification, ma'am?" She handed over her Pentagon credentials. The officer blinked. "Colonel Clark, welcome. You're expected on the executive floor." She walked through the glass lobby as employees turned to stare. Some nodded, some whispered, some just froze. She had learned long ago how to carry authority. Now they would feel it. She passed the elevator mirrors. Behind her reflection, she saw Logan, scrolling through a tablet and laughing with Bree. Then he looked up and stopped laughing. "Natalie," he said, brows furrowed, "what the hell are you wearing?" She tilted her head slightly. "Full dress uniform, Pentagon liaison. I'm here for Project Aegis." Logan's face paled. "You're... what?" Before he could process it, the elevator doors opened. Vanessa Myers, Sentinel Tech CEO, stepped out with her executive team. Then her eyes landed on Natalie. "Colonel Clark," she said warmly, offering her hand. "We weren't expecting you in person." "Figured I'd save the Zoom call. Besides..." Natalie gave a small smile. "Family was in town." Behind her, Russell Clark stepped into the lobby, just in time to hear the words and see his daughter shake the hand of the woman who controlled his promotion. Everything just shifted. If you've ever been dismissed, ignored, or underestimated despite your efforts, type 1 below. You're not alone. And sometimes the best answer is just showing up when they least expect it. Vanessa turned to her staff. "Let's head to the executive boardroom. Colonel Clark will be sitting at the head of the table." Natalie didn't look back. She didn't need to. At 8:52 a.m., the glass doors of Sentinel Tech's 22nd floor conference wing whispered open with a soft chime, and Colonel Natalie Clark stepped in wearing full uniform. A young receptionist dropped her stylus. A director, mid-sentence, stopped cold. All eyes turned, as if gravity had shifted slightly in the room. The last time Natalie had walked these halls, she was 16, tagging along to Take Your Daughter to Work Day, wearing jeans and her father's corporate ID on a lanyard. Now she walked in wearing rank earned under fire, under code, under the weight of national responsibility. "Colonel," said Vanessa Myers, striding forward in heels and confidence, "you make an entrance." Natalie extended her hand. "Figured it was time." Vanessa's smile turned sharper. "Your reputation precedes you. You've been very direct in correspondence. It's refreshing." Behind her, Natalie caught a glimpse of Logan standing next to their father, Russell, both visibly rattled. Russell looked like he'd seen a ghost. Logan just looked betrayed. She ignored them. Instead, she took her place at the long obsidian table, directly across from the projection screen. A placard already marked the seat. Military Liaison, Project Aegis. Russell's name was 3 seats away. Logan's was 2 down from hers. Perfect. The room buzzed back to life. Papers shuffling, laptops booting, coffee being poured too quickly. "Let's begin," Vanessa said crisply. A series of project leads went first: compliance, product engineering, systems architecture. Natalie listened closely, occasionally jotting notes, occasionally tapping a code into her secure tablet. Then came Logan. He stood and adjusted his jacket, trying hard to project poise. "As lead on the Aegis interface transition, I've been spearheading a real-time, cloud-based adaptive security wrapper for deployment across military endpoints." Natalie blinked slowly. Security wrapper? That was her term. He tapped on the screen. Charts and UI flows appeared. Technical terms flew: heuristic indexing, latency variance, self-correcting firewalls. It was well packaged, slick even, too slick, because Natalie recognized every line of logic. These weren't Logan's innovations. They were lifted, barely reworded, from a white paper she'd written under clearance during her time at Fort Meade, later partially declassified and stored on the military intranet. She glanced down at her tablet, opened a mirrored file. There it was. Side by side, the framework was 87% identical, and not once had her name or source been mentioned. He hadn't just copied it, he plagiarized her classified material and called it innovative. Mr. Clark, Natalie said once he wrapped up. A few questions. He turned to her slowly. Of course, Colonel. You mentioned live endpoint wrapping. Was that tested using the encrypted NHT4 protocol? Logan froze. We ran simulations using Sentinel's internal sandbox. So no, not NHT4, she clarified. Then how do you account for the 5.3 MNES encryption delay on satellite-based communications? A pause. Logan opened his mouth, then closed it. We're still optimizing for speed, he said vaguely. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. Natalie nodded once, voice calm. That delay was documented in my original research, which I'm sure you're familiar with, since your design uses 87% of the same architecture. A beat of dead silence. Vanessa sat back. Wait, are you saying this framework wasn't developed in-house? I'm saying, Natalie replied evenly, that it originated within a military division I commanded. And its unauthorized usage here poses a serious compliance issue if not disclosed. Russell leaned forward, finally finding his voice. Natalie, surely there's been some confusion. Logan's team... Natalie cut him off without raising her tone. Is your legal department ready to explain this to the Pentagon's audit branch, or should I? The room froze again, but this time it was colder. Later, as the meeting paused for coffee, Natalie stepped to the window, watching the mountains stretch across the horizon. Rachel Kim, a junior engineer, slipped beside her. Colonel Clark? Natalie turned. Yes? I just wanted to say thank you. The core logic in Logan's deck, it was mine. I wrote it 3 months ago. He removed my name before submitting the draft to the board. Natalie narrowed her eyes. Rachel looked embarrassed. I didn't know who to tell, but seeing you call him out... I saved the original commit logs, time-stamped. Natalie nodded slowly. Send them to me, discreetly. A pause. You're not like the others. No, Natalie said. I'm not here to play politics. I'm here to make sure no one buries the truth. If you've ever watched someone take credit for your work, only to finally be exposed, type 2 below. It's not just karma. Sometimes justice needs a push. As the second half of the meeting resumed, Logan's posture was different, deflated, defensive. Russell looked furious, not at Logan but at Natalie. He leaned over and whispered, What the hell are you trying to do? Destroy your own family's name? She didn't look at him. I'm doing my job. You could have warned us. You could have listened for the last 10 years. When the final slide faded and Vanessa stood to wrap the meeting, she turned toward Natalie. Colonel Clark will be staying on site for performance evaluations this week, she announced. All department heads, including UI integration, will report to her directly. Logan went sheet white. Russell stared at the floor. Vanessa continued. Your input today has been invaluable, Colonel. We're fortunate to have your expertise and your integrity. Natalie nodded. Thank you. I intend to make sure this contract reflects both. As the room emptied and whispers resumed, Natalie gathered her notes. Rachel passed her a flash drive as she exited. The name label read, Aegis Code Truth.zip. Natalie turned to Logan, who lingered at the back of the room, eyes dark and jaw clenched. You said last night that 10 years from now I'd still be taking orders, she said, stepping closer. But it turns out I'm the one giving them now. He didn't answer. She didn't need him to. That evening, Natalie received a text from Sentinel Tech's General Counsel. We need to talk about internal IP violations. High urgency. Her smile was razor thin. Tomorrow, the real audit would begin. The email hit her inbox at 5:04 a.m. Subject line, Immediate escalation request. IP theft allegation filed. Natalie sat upright in her hotel bed, blinking into the glow of her laptop screen. The attached PDF was exactly what she expected, and worse. Sentinel Tech's legal counsel had launched an internal audit, citing potential breach of classified adjacent protocol and internal authorship dispute tied to Project Aegis. Attached were two exhibits. One was the comparison log showing 87% overlap between her military paper and Logan's innovation. The second was a commit history from a junior engineer named Rachel Kim, time-stamped 6 weeks prior to Logan's first draft. The case was airtight, and Logan Clark, her own brother, was about to be publicly exposed. By 9 a.m., Natalie stood inside her father's office, her uniform still impeccable, her stare unyielding. Across from her sat her father, Russell Clark, hands folded tightly on his mahogany desk. To his right was her mother, Carolyn, who had arrived in a rush after getting a call she didn't expect. To the left, arms crossed, silent but seething, stood Logan. No one spoke at first. Finally, Russell broke the silence. "You could have handled this differently." Natalie didn't blink. "You mean quietly?" "You know what I mean. You're tearing the company apart. Your own family." Natalie glanced at the framed photo of the Clark siblings on the shelf, both of them in high school, both of them still pretending their paths would somehow converge. "I'm not tearing anything apart," she said. "I'm holding people accountable. The fact that one of them happens to share my DNA is unfortunate, but irrelevant." Carolyn tried for diplomacy. "Natalie, we're not saying what Logan did was right, necessarily, but to escalate things this way, with legal and compliance, you know how this looks." Natalie turned to her. "Yes. It looks like a senior project lead stole federally connected intellectual property, erased the actual author's name, presented it as his own, and got caught." "Stop acting like a stranger," Russell snapped. "This is family." "No," Natalie said evenly. "This is work. You made that clear the moment you dismissed my career as pushing paper. The moment you celebrated Logan's every certificate while ignoring every one of my promotions." Logan finally spoke, voice bitter. "So that's what this is? A grudge?" Natalie turned slowly to him. "No. This is about Rachel Kim, about her work being buried under your name. This is about national security, Logan. Do you even understand what kind of clearance breach you just flirted with?" "I didn't mean," he started. "You didn't care," she interrupted. "You gambled that no one would be watching, that no one in uniform would ever have the authority to push back." Carolyn flinched at the word uniform. "Let me ask you something," Natalie said. "If I had worn a blazer instead of a uniform, if I had stayed here, followed your track, sat in that conference room in heels and not boots, would you have listened to me sooner?" Russell didn't answer, because they both knew the truth. Logan's voice cracked. "You humiliated me in front of Vanessa." Natalie's tone dropped to a chilling calm. "You humiliated yourself. You used government work you didn't understand, passed it off as your own, and silenced the person who built it. I just turned the lights on." "You wanted this," he accused. "The power, the title. You wanted to prove you were better." "I wanted respect," she replied. "I wanted you to see me as someone who earned their place." Carolyn folded her hands, finally asking, "What do you want now?" Natalie hesitated, then said it clearly. "I want a formal apology to Rachel Kim. I want her name restored in all documents. I want Logan removed from the Aegis project. And I want every single executive in that building to know that my family didn't make my career, they tried to bury it." Russell rose from his seat, fists clenched at his sides. "Do you even hear yourself?" "Yes," Natalie said, loud and clear. "If you've ever stood in front of people who made you feel small, only to realize you were never the problem, type 3 in the comments. You're not alone, and your voice still matters." Later that afternoon, Natalie stood on the rooftop terrace of Sentinel Tech HQ. The Rockies loomed distant behind glass and steel. Rachel joined her, cautious but grateful. "Legal said they're reinstating my authorship. Vanessa offered me a senior consultant role." "You deserve it," Natalie said simply. "I'm just glad someone finally saw me." Natalie nodded. "I know the feeling." Back in the boardroom, Vanessa held a closed-door meeting with the executive team. Russell and Logan were not present. Natalie entered, handed over her final evaluation. It included security recommendations, risk flags, and an anonymized integrity violation report tied to Project Aegis leadership. Vanessa scanned the document, then looked up. This is going to ripple through more than just this office. I know, Natalie said. And if we reassign Logan Clark? I'll sign off on phase 2 of Aegis. Vanessa leaned back. You play a ruthless game. Natalie's eyes didn't waver. I don't play games. I protect missions. As she stepped out of the room, Logan stood near the elevator, alone. His tie loosened, eyes bloodshot. You win, he muttered. Natalie paused. This wasn't a contest. Could have fooled me, she tilted her head. You said yesterday I'd still be taking orders 10 years from now. Turns out I'm issuing them instead. He shook his head. You burned the bridge. No, she said, pressing the elevator button. You built it out of matchsticks. That night, Natalie's phone buzzed with a new contact request. Brig, General Eleanor Grant, SecOps Strategy Brief. The message read, Colonel Clark, heard you handled Sentinel with surgical precision. I want you on the next phase team. Tokyo, 60-day rotation. Are you ready? Natalie looked at the skyline, then tapped reply. Yes, always. 7 hours a.m. Subject, final decision, leadership reassignment, Project Aegis. Natalie Clark opened the email as the scent of burnt hotel coffee filled the air. She hadn't slept. Not really. Not since General Grant's message the night before. Tokyo, 60-day rotation, cyber warfare R&D, a new chapter, starting in less than 2 weeks. But before that, she had one more thing to do. One final room to walk into. Not as someone asking for recognition, not as a daughter trying to earn her father's respect. Today, she was walking in as a colonel, and judge of the very legacy that once tried to erase her. 9 a.m. sharp, the entire executive board of Sentinel Tech was present. Vanessa Myers, standing at the head of the table, nodded toward her. Colonel Clark, the floor is yours. Natalie stood, calm, focused. Her military-issued tablet synced instantly with the screen. This is the official summary of Project Aegis Phase 1 compliance audit. Effective immediately, Logan Clark is to be reassigned pending resolution of documented IP violation. Rachel Kim will serve as interim integration lead. Pentagon liaison status will remain active through Phase 2 development. Gasps rippled around the table. No one objected. Logan wasn't there. He had been asked not to attend. Vanessa cleared her throat. Rachel will have full access to the tools and reporting lines required. Colonel Clark will provide weekly technical guidance until the role is stabilized. Natalie nodded. She's more than capable. Then she added clearly, You'll also be conducting a cultural assessment of leadership bias, documenting systemic patterns of exclusion and idea misappropriation across departments. Sentinel Tech is not just building national defense, it's modeling it. Vanessa blinked, then slowly nodded. Understood. At 10:30 a.m., her father was waiting outside her temporary office. He looked smaller than usual, his posture more restrained. The same man who once told her military ranks mean nothing in the real world now hesitated in front of her door. She didn't invite him in. He came anyway. May I sit? He asked. She looked up from her desk. That's your choice. Russell settled awkwardly into the chair. They said Logan's being reassigned. They didn't say. I did. Her voice didn't flinch. He exhaled slowly. And Rachel, she's taking over? She earned it. A beat of silence. I read the report, he finally said. The commit logs, the side-by-side code. There's no way around it. He lied. Yes, Natalie said. And you defended him while it happened. He nodded, slowly. I didn't want to believe it. I raised both of you. I thought I knew your strengths, but I underestimated you. You erased me, she corrected gently. From the walls of our house, from conversations, from expectations. You believed in one version of success and you forced both of us into its shadow. Carolyn appeared at the door a moment later. She didn't knock. I didn't know it would come to this, she said softly. I didn't know you'd be the one with the final say. Natalie raised an eyebrow. Would it have changed anything? Her mother swallowed. Maybe I would have looked closer, listened better. Natalie leaned back in her chair. It's easier to dismiss people when they don't wear power on their sleeves. That's why I wore this uniform today. Not for you, for me. To stop shrinking just because you refuse to see. If you've ever had to wear your own success like armor, just to finally be heard, type 4 below. You don't need to be loud, you just need to stand. Carolyn sat beside her husband. Logan never came. He's embarrassed, her mother explained. Ashamed. He should be, Natalie said, not unkindly. He'll learn from it, if you let him. Russell looked up. Are you leaving again? Yes, new assignment, Tokyo, cyber defense operations. General Grant handpicked me for the team. That woman, her father murmured. She always believed in you, didn't she? Even when you didn't, Natalie said. Then she softened. But you can still catch up if you're willing to do the work. Later that night, her apartment was quiet. The framed article her father had once dismissed now sat proudly on the wall. Clark leads military-civilian cybersecurity bridge. Her medals were displayed not for ego, but as reminders. Each one came with a battle they never saw. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Eleanor. It was Logan. Text, I messed up, not just the project, everything. If you still care, coffee next week? She stared at the screen for a moment, then typed, only if you listen, not defend, not deflect, just listen. Your sister, your superior, your wake-up call. He read it within seconds, typing, then nothing. She locked the screen and turned toward the window. Behind her, medals, citations, a worn copy of her promotion to colonel. Ahead of her, Tokyo, mission briefings, a world that knew her value, even if her family had taken years to see it. She shut off the lights, poured a glass of wine, and whispered to herself, they didn't bury me. They just planted the wrong story. The next one? She was writing it herself.